Hey guys, Gingerbread Man modeling part 1. So yeah, let's get right into it. You watched the introduction, you know what we're doing. So close this guy. So pull up the front ref 2 PNG, which should be provided somewhere, um, probably in the YouTube description or on CG2 Plus website. And what we're going to do is we're going to use it as a reference. We're going to go into the front view, so we're going to middle click to get to the foreViews, and in the front view, we're going to grab this thing from the window explorer and drag it into the background, and it'll be set up as a reference there, which is very convenient. Now, first thing we do is let's line it up so it's around along the middle. Press Shift V, and here select back. And by the way, if you're on a Mac or something and you can't just drag and drop it, this is how you do it. You press Shift V, and then here you press the little buttons and you pick the picture you want to be in the background. Now here we want this middle line to be aligned with the green line, so let's shift it up again, about 2 points, and the rest is fine. Okay, so we're gonna start with the head shape, and we're gonna use a cylinder first. So let's make a cylinder, and let's change it to plus Z. Now the problem right now we have with the cylinder, if you look into the perspective view, you can see it has only a couple of edges, like only 12 segments. But in this one it looks round, and that's not very convenient for what we're doing. So what we have to do is we go display, and we go wireframe. And now we get to see what we were meant to see. So what I want now is I want the number of these edges to correspond with the number of edges on his head. So let's crank it up a bit. They align. That seems about right. Okay, good. Let's scale it down to fit the head. Let's make the guy editable by pressing the C key and pushing this button here. Go to point mode. I have explained this before, but let's explain it again. There's this convenient tool called rectangular selection, and it's actually if you have mouse button 4 and 5, like if you have the front and back buttons on the side of your mouse, if you click the one that's forward and you hold it, Cinema will temporarily switch to rectangular selection, and you can select the points. Just don't forget here in rectangular selection to have only select visible elements unticked. And that way select all the points. So now we delete it, switch this back to live selection. And let's move this guy back to 0. So I have a thing to work with. Now let me quickly explain to you why we do. Like right now you will see that we will select, I'll show you. Let's select the point faces here. Press the I key, which is extrude inner, and click and drag it in so we have an edge around the side of the head, and then hit delete. Now for a second let me go make a new scene. Actually let's make a new scene, and I'll explain how hypernerves work, just so we're aware what we're doing. Now we have a cylinder here, let's make it editable. If we throw it into a hypernerve right now, you'll see that the edge doesn't get smooth. That's because this is actually separate objects. Like if you select these faces and then you move them, you'll see they're not actually connected to the rest of the object. So what we have to do is we have to go right click and optimize, which is off the screen, but it's there down near the bottom. And what it does is it connects all the points, and now you have the smoothness. Now to actually add some the hypernerve smooths an object depending on how close the edges are to each other. So if we add a cut, for example here, you see now these edges are kind of less smooth. So if we, for example, go into the V menu and go loop selection and into edge mode, now the closer we move the edges together, the sharper the edge. The further, the smoother the connection. And also on the top, if you select all these polygons and use what we did there, the inner extrude, which is here, and we scale it down, you see it adds a kind of, it gives you a nice beveled edge. And you can control how beveled you want it to be by scaling this down and up, That's what that's what controls the smoothness. So now that I've explained that, we'll go back to our gingerbread man. Okay, let's start copying this wireframe. Press Shift V again and go to the back, and then here we can back, and we can change the transparency up to like, so it doesn't get in the way as much when we're modeling this. So, oh yeah, that's right. Now I'll show you how to use true symmetry. Also a wonderful plugin, absolutely essential. Go to, you can Google it, Control N, true symmetry. There you go. It's on the C4D Cafe. If you haven't registered here, register. It's a very good website for learning Cinema 4D. And you get this plugin. I think you have to register to download it. Anyway, very useful plugin. Unfortunately, since version R13, it's had some issues, but they're very small issues. Basically, okay, so let's add the true symmetry. The only issues are these show plane things, but you only need them while you're setting it up. So, as you can see, we turned on and we press enable symmetry, and now if we select points here, see that fading thing? That's because of this plane. So we untick this, and now we have no problems. And see, it adds symmetry on both sides. And it also keeps points in the middle from moving away. They're always stuck on the line. So it's an overall wonderful plugin. Definitely get it, definitely use it. We're going to be using it when modeling this guy because it saves us a lot of time. So, first things first, let's start adjusting these points. Let's move some of these points so they align with the edges that we want them to align with. As you can see, we might have had some points in not quite right. First, let's delete these. We don't need these anymore. And let's go to just the move tool and point mode, and we can just see, look what we have. The problem here is that we didn't optimize the cylinder when, like, see, this one is fine. We didn't optimize the cylinder. So what we do now is we go Control A, we right click, and we go optimize. And now when we move, we don't have a problem. Good, so go ahead and line them up to the edges that we have, since we're using this as a reference. If you have some that need a lot of moving, don't bother, just leave them out. We'll delete them in a moment. Just line up the ones that, see? There we go. Okay, so we're missing one here, so let's go to the knife tool, K. Mine's set to loop mode by default. You know, switch to loop mode if necessary. And let's add this cut here, and go back to the move tool and move everything to the appropriate places. Okay, and here, as you can see, we have some extra ones. Let's go to the edge mode, select the edges that we don't need by holding the shift key, then right click, not on the axis, just an empty space, and click where the dissolve. There we go, and they're gone. Problem solved. Wonderful. Okay, now let's start the rest of this guy. For the middle one, we want to select both these edges and hold the control key to drag in, the edge down, and that way we will keep our symmetry. And then we want to, let's connect. So you go to the edge mode and go to bridge, and that clearly is not what we want. So let's use the knife tool to add some loops here. Use the background as your reference. Let's go to bridge now in the edge mode and join these guys up. Here, as you will see, it's not quite the same thing because there's like 4 edges and they go into one. So what we do is we need to add these cuts here. So let's go back to our knife tool by pressing the K key, and let's add these 2 loops here, and then go back to the bridge tool, and now let's connect them together. And there we go. We have a nice mesh made of quads. Okay, next step, let's pull down this guy. So we get all these edges here. We unselect that one with the move tool. And let's scale them down by going to the scale tool, and then click and drag, and then hold the shift key to scale it to 0, and it will flatten it out. And now let's use the move tool again and hold the control key and drag it down. Once again, if you're in watch my tree tutorial because that'll cover this material. If you're in anything that's not R14 where control clicking and dragging does not work, what you do is you just use the extrude tool. Extrude, this one. It does exactly the same thing. Extrude, click and drag, and you get what you need. Okay, so now we go to the scale tool. We click the red handle and we scale it out. And then we select just half of it. And once again, we either extrude. Oh no, see, the extrude joins it, so we can't do that. I mean, we can, but if you control click, it'll separate it. But if you extrude, unfortunately, it joins them together, so you're kind of stuck with the center bit. So you have to delete stuff and draw it again. So okay, I'll explain what to do. So right now we have this problem. We need this to be two separate feet. Now, unfortunately, there's no disconnect command in Cinema 4D, so we do have to just delete these, and then we have to move these guys over, and we go right click, create polygon, and then click, 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 and then double click on the last one. And there we go, we have a separated leg. So let's line these guys back up to the correct places. Nope, let's take it down here. As you can see, we're having a bit of an edge flow issue. Let's move these guys back up here. This will make life slightly easier. As you can see here, we're going to need some extra edges. So let's fix this. Let's add a loop cut here. Move this guy across. Let's go right click, create polygon. Click. Actually, no, in this case, we need it to be joined, don't we? So we should. And now let's make a new polygon. That's fine. Click, click, double click. And these 2 points, we need to give them the same. We need to go and scale them down, holding the shift key to make it 0. And then right click and optimize. And hopefully that works. Yep, there's 1 point. Wonderful. Let's disable and enable symmetry here. Also there you go. Be careful with the symmetry plugin. Sometimes it does crash Cinema when you do some weird symmetry stuff, like some commands crash it. So always be sure to save your Gingerbread man. So gbman underscore man underscore 01, because sometimes it does do that. Anyway, so here let's add another create polygon, and now it should be easier to do what we need to do the rest of them. So let's select these polygons, press D. Oops. Interesting, what is going on here? Control click and it works. Might be some edge rotation issue. Anyway, let's go line them up again. And now we just need to join these. So let's go again to the create polygon tool. And we can just make 2 of these. And to save some clicks, go to bridge, edge mode, and just join them up. Ta-da! Wonderful, right? Okay, now we get sorry, we haven't finished modeling. Sorry, we just made the wireframe. Now we're gonna select the faces, and we're gonna extrude him out. And actually, before we do that, let's fix some of these little edge issues we have here. Press Shift V, bring this opacity down a bit so we can see what's going on. Okay, now in point mode, let's go to the move tool, deselect everything. Let's line these points up, because once we start doing the next step, it'll make it significantly more difficult to achieve. Let's line this stuff up. And let's add these cuts. The thing is, you'll see the cuts are actually important. Actually, I'll show you later why we get these extra cuts. For now, it's all very functional. Okay, next step, face mode. We will press the D key and we will click and drag an empty space. And as you see, we get a bit of a shape. Now, you notice that some of these things extruded in a totally wrong direction. So let's press undo. Let's select all the polygons by pressing Ctrl A. And see, you can see these normals of these are reversed in the wrong direction. So we right click and we go align normals. Ta-da! And now we can click and drag and it works. We have a cookie shape. As you can see, the back is empty. So we click create caps. Now we have it filled up on both of them. Very convenient. Now, if we press Alt and put into hypernodes, you can see the shape is roughly correct, but it looks the same on both sides. It looks more like a, I don't know, like a chopped piece of meat rather than a cookie. A cookie, when it's baked, the bottom of it is flat, so here, because it's on the tray, and the top of it should be more smooth. So what we do is we select edge mode. We go to the V menu by pressing the V key or the back button on your mouse. We go select, and we go loop selection. And we select the outside loop of our little cookie. We go to the move tool, and we move this guy back towards the bottom. Now if you unselect it, you can see it's now the shape that we want. Smoother here, and more sharp edge down the bottom, like I showed you with the cylinder example before. As you can see, we suddenly have this problem here where, well, you see this not very nice smoothing. That's because we don't have enough cuts here to maintain the shape. As you can see in my wireframe, there's actually cuts here, here, and here. And those cuts are there because they smooth it out. They remove a lot of the artifacts. And it gives a more regular polygon flow. Like, they're not all necessary, I'd say. Like, you could probably get away with the last two, to be honest. Just that enough is enough because we just need one to the top. Yeah, let's keep it efficient. So yeah, there we go. We have the body. Now let's do the arms. Okay, let's make the arms we do in a very similar fashion. We make a plane object. We change its direction to Z or plus Z. Change this to 1 and 1. And then we make editable, go into point mode, and scale the guys down and move them into the right place. No. Move them over. Let's go to the knife tool, add a knife cut there. Move tool, oops, deselect. Move tool. Let's go to the edge mode, select these two edges, Control click, drag them out. Point mode, move tool. And to add the edge around thing, what we do is we go to edge mode and we right click. No, we go V selection menu, select, and we select this path selection tool. And we click and drag around the edge. And there are edges selected. Now we press the D key for extrude and we click and drag. And we have the edge of the arm around it now. So now when we do the same thing we just did with the object, we go to polygons, we press the D key, we click and drag right direction. As you can see now, the polygons went blue, which means they're all, if we select all, you will see they're actually all inverted. It doesn't matter in this case, but generally it's good grammar, I guess, to keep them in the right direction. So let's go reverse normals. There we go. Let's go back to edge mode. We still have it selected. Let's move the edge down towards the bottom. Now holding the Alt key, press hypernodes, and ta-da, we have our arm for the gingerbread man. It's probably should be thicker, so let's go to our plane. Let's go to the model, scale tool, press on this little blue arrow, and drag it out. There we go, much better. I don't like how close these edges are. Let's get these points and move them a bit. Actually, let's go to the edge selection, select all these edges, and control click and drag them. Well, no, that doesn't work because we have polygons there now. Let's select all these polygons on the side here and control click and drag them. There we go. And now here, there you go, we don't have that weird dent that we had before. Okay, maybe even scale the guy down a bit. About this much. Seems about right. Okay, now we want to have the other arm, obviously. Let's name this as body, name this as arm. Now, if we hold the Alt key and we select symmetry, you'll notice it flips over and everything's dandy. It's like the arm and rotate it, the symmetrize. But be very careful with the symmetry object, because the symmetry object, it is important for the symmetry object where it is located. So let me make an example. If we make a new file, we get a cube and we get its points. You don't have to follow along, this is just me demonstrating what happens. Scale it down so it's like an arrow. Now, if we want to have symmetry, and right now we hold the Alt key and make a symmetry object, you will first see that this symmetry is in the wrong direction. There we go, that's the right direction. And now if we move it around, we have a symmetrical object, which is great. It's exactly what we need. If we rotate it, they both rotate, perfect. But if we take this cube out and we do the symmetry, and if this cube is not in the center of the scene, and we hold the Alt key and create a symmetry object, as you can see again, the symmetry object is not around the center. So if we had first let's rotate this cube so, right, hold on. Let's rotate the points in this cube so that it's a clear example. So let's say we have a sphere in the middle, and we want this thing to be on both sides of the sphere. And if we have it selected and we go Alt click and we select our symmetry object, you'll see it doesn't actually appear in the right place. The problem is because when you Alt click on something, it creates an object on top of the object that you have selected, and it creates it in exactly the same coordinates. So wherever this axis is located, that's where the new object will be created. In our Gingerbread man situation, the axis is actually in the middle of the scene, as you can see here. Right. Gingerbread man. As you can see for the arm, the axis is in the middle. So when we hold the Alt key and create a symmetry object, it creates it in the middle. But in this case, it was not in the middle, it was in the center of the object. Now that I've moved it, now we hold the Alt key and create a symmetry object. It's all the way we expect it to be. Turn the axis off. There you go. So yeah, point is, symmetry object matters wherever this axis is. That's the kind of plane around which the symmetry will be created. So keep that in mind when creating a symmetry object. Okay, what next? Next we make the face. Actually, make the face in the next part, because I'm going to keep these videos to about 20 minutes or so. So join me in my next part where I model the face and the eyes and all the little details, and then we'll add materials and stuff. Yep.